Hello guys, and welcome to another Blender tutorial. So today I'm going to be showing you how to add damage to pillars or walls or any items that you want. So we're going to be modeling this little scene here just as an example. I'm going to show you how to do all of this. Now we are going to be using Boolean, so if I quickly unhide this layer here, we're going to be using a cutter object that we can move around, and then we can just hide it, and we can add the damage wherever we want. We can also edit the cutter object and just pull points around if we want to kind of like customize the damage, or just add a little bit of a unique touch to it. So yeah, not a complicated tutorial. I will be providing free links to free textures that I'm using in the description below that you guys can check out. So let's get into this. I hope you guys enjoy. Okay, so let's start by making the pillar. So I'm going to go ahead and just delete all of the default objects here in the scene, hit X and delete them. So let's make a round pillar. So we're going to go Shift A under our mesh options. We're going to go down and get a cylinder. With the cylinder here, we're going to tab into edit mode, or you can just go here manually and go into edit mode. Go into your front view, go G and then Z. If you hold in Control or Command, it'll snap to the grid. So we're going to snap it right here, so it's sitting on our floor. Gives a little origin point, the position here in the bottom, which is what we want. Now, if we go Shift Alt, we click up here, select this loop of vertices here. So this is kind of like optional, but or preferable, I should say. You can go G, Z, move it up. Now, if you want a higher pillar, obviously make it higher. If you want a shorter, stubby one, just make it shorter. So I'm just going to go with something like this. We're going to go to our Edge Select option here, and we're going to quickly select some parts of this that we're going to make into seams so we can UV unwrap it. So what I would recommend is finding the place on your pillar where it's not going to be seeing the camera as much. In this case, it's going to be the back. So I'm just going to select an edge here. I'm going to go Control E or Command E, and we're going to go Mark Seam. We're going to go Shift Alt, click on this top edge here, and Shift Alt, click on this bottom edge. And we're going to go Control E again or Command E and go Mark Seam. So now we have this all cut. So if we now select all of this geometry, we go to our UV editing. We can just go U and unwrap. And we can see here it's unwrapped it. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here to this window, select a vertex here, hit Control L or Command L. It's going to select all of that geometry, and I'm just going to go S to scale it up a little bit and move it over here. And then S, and I'm going to go Y and scale it down on the Y a bit. And then bring it here. And these two, I'm just going to select them, bring them over here, and just scale them up a little bit more. So just like that. And then what we're going to do is go back to our layout here. In fact, go to your shading workspace. That's where we want to go. And with this cylinder here, we're just going to go give it a new material. And let's call this material pillar. And what we're going to do is just go to edit. We're going to go to our preferences, go over here to the add-ons, and we're going to type in over here Node Wrangler. So type in Node Wrangler. Make sure Node Wrangler is enabled. So if Node Wrangler enabled, if we click on this principled shader here, we have it selected. If we hit Control T, it's going to add in these three nodes for us here automatically. So that's Control T or Command T. So we're going to have an image texture here, a mapping node, and a texture coordinate. So let's click on Open here, and I'm going to go to my desktop. And once again, like I said, you can download these textures that I'm using in the description below, or you can just use your own. So this one I'm going to be using first is just a concrete material. So it's called Concrete Massive 007. I'm going to go Open Image, and here we can see we now see the texture. Now, if you have it in solid mode, so if you hit Z and you click solid, you can see this is what it looks like. If you hit Z and then you go Material Preview, you can actually see what it looks like. So let's go Object and enable Shade Smooth as well with this selected. Let's just quickly go to our Modifiers tab here and just give this guy an Edge Split modifier as well. So I'm not going to go into like adding like normal maps or bump maps. This is just so we can see the texture displayed here. And then what we're going to do now is go back to our layout, and we're going to quickly tab into edit mode. And I'm going to show you a little trick. If we select all of this in edit mode and we go Shift D to duplicate it, we can go S, Z to scale it down. And then we're going to go G, Z, bring it down to the floor here, and then S to scale it. Just like this, bringing it down. And because this is already UV unwrapped, all we have to simply do is go to our UV editing, go to our face select up here, Shift Alt, click on this face here to loop select these faces around here. And over here now we can come to this side, select everything, and then we're going to go S, X, and scale it down on the X. And if you go Z in this window and you hit the Material Preview, we can see here we have the Material Preview, just like that. And what we can do now is tab into edit mode, just make sure you go to the edge select here, and we're gonna go Shift Alt, click on this edge here, and we're gonna go Control B or Command B to bevel it. Giving it a bevel, roll your middle mouse button, you can add in some more geometry like that. I'm gonna come in here, Control R, click, Control B to bevel, and I'm rolling the middle mouse button down, just has one segment in there. And then Shift Alt, I'm gonna click on this edge here and go S to scale it down, and then go Control B or Command B just to bevel that. So I'm just creating a nice little profile here. And now that I've done this, I can just simply select this guy over here, and then I'm gonna go Shift D to duplicate it, Z to bring it up. And in my front orthographic view, I'm just gonna go R 180 and hit enter, G, Z, move it up a little bit more. So now we have a nice little pillar here. Very, very simple way of making a very or somewhat realistic pillar, and you could definitely do more with the materials. But for now, let's get into the second part here. So let's quickly go back to our layout, and let's just make the steel reinforcement that we want to see once we expose holes in this. So we're going to go Shift A. Let's go to our mesh options again. Once again, add in a cylinder. This time we just want to come over here though, and we want to make the vertex count here something like 8. That's good. So we're going to go G, Z, just move it over to the side, and then S to scale this guy down quite a bit. So I'm going to scale it down even more. And then S, Z, and we're going to scale it up on a Z. So S, Z, and we want this guy to be, so if you go S, Z, you don't want it to be longer than the pillar here. You want it to be a little bit shorter so it can be embedded in there. So let's just move it over to the side here, just leave it there for now. And what we're going to do is also UV unwrap it. So let's go to make sure edge select is enabled. And we're going to do the same thing. Shift Alt, click on this loop of edges here. Zoom in here, Shift Alt, click on this edge here. And then holding in Shift, just click on any edge here just to select it. So if those edges selected, just like the big cylinder we did, we're going to go Control E or Command E and go Mark Seam. And let's go to our UV editing. Hit A to select all of this geometry in edit mode. U and unwrap. And then we're going to come over here, just select this vertex here, Control L and then S, Y, and scale it down into Y, S, Y, just like that, and then S to scale it up. Just bringing it over here. And then these two, I'm just going to select and scale them down a bit. Now, what we're going to do is go to our shading workspace. And if this rod here, what we're going to do is we're going to go New. And let's just call this Rusty Rod, because that's what it is, or is this steel reinforcement? You can call it whatever you want. And once again, because we enabled Node Wrangler, if we select this principal shader and we go Control T or Command T, it's going to add in this node setup for us. So let's go ahead, open, and once again, in the description below, you can get this rust material that I have if you want to download it, or you can just find your own on Google somewhere. So if we now hit Z, make sure you're in material preview, you should be able to see the rust on this. So let's just quickly go to our UV editing, and if you're in edit mode over here, with this guy, you can hit A over here to select all of this geometry, scale it, move it around, try and get something that works. So you can kind of have a look at it. So I'm just going to go with that for now. So with this rod here in object mode, I'm just going to go shade smooth. Okay, so now we have that done. Let's quickly go back to our layout. And I'm just going to, oh yeah, one more thing. With this rod, actually, we do want to give it some more geometry. So with the edge select enabled in an edit mode, just go Control R over here. You can see a little yellow line appearing here. Roll your middle mouse wheel. Let's just going to add in some segments. I'm just rolling it a few times like that, clicking it in. Enable proportional editing. Go into your front orthographic view, go to vertex select. Select any random vertex and then go G and just kind of move it around a little bit. So this guy here as well, just making it not so perfectly straight. Go to your right orthographic view by hitting 3 and then kind of just make it bendy from the side. And now what you can do is you can go G to move it into your into the pillar here. And I'm going to go Shift D, duplicating this guy a few times. Now what I would recommend is that you select random ones over here and you tab into edit mode and you just alter it a little bit so they're not all exactly the same. So just little variations within them. So you can see I'm just going in and out of edit mode, selecting different ones, selecting a vertex and just moving it around a bit. Just to give it that random variation a little bit. You don't have to go overboard with this. So this is just what I'm going to leave it at now, just for an example. And now is where we have the fun part. So we're going to go Shift A, add in a cube, and let's just bring this cube over here to the side. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into edit mode, the modifier mode here option, and give it a subdivision surface modifier. I'm going to bump the viewport display up to 2, and the render should be at 2 as well. Let's give this guy a displace modifier, and we're going to go over here to this texture tab here, go new, and then go to the drop down here and give it clouds. We're now going to go back to our modifier tab here, and let's just move this guy over so it's embedded in the pillar. Then go S, X, S, Z and scale it on the Z a bit, and just place it where you want it to cut away at this pillar. And then what we're going to do is we're going to give it one more modifier, and that's going to be another subdivision surface modifier, like that. Go to object and enable shade smooth. So now what we're going to do is going to select the pillar, and we're going to give it a Boolean modifier. I'm going to click on the little eyedropper and then select the cutter object here. Make sure to put the Boolean above the edge split, like this. So the Boolean is at the top and the edge split is down the bottom. Now select this cutter here, hit M to make a new collection. So click on new collection after hitting M, and let's just call it cutter, and hit OK. And now we can come over here to our scene collections and just untick the cutter here so it's not in the way and it won't render. So now if we hit Z and we go to material preview, we can see we have the steel reinforcement that's being exposed over here. And that looks okay, but what we want to do is we want to have a different material on the inside. So what we're going to do is select the pillar here. We're going to go to our materials tab, click on the little plus here. Let's go new and let's call this inner. So I'm going to call it inner for inner material. Go to your shading tab or workspace, click on the materials here. Make sure that the inner material is selected. Select the principled node, and once again with Node Wrangler enabled like we did earlier, if we hit Control T or Command T, it's going to add in these free nodes for us. All we want to do here is come to the flat option under the image texture, make it box, and then take the object here and plug it into the vector of the mapping. We can now hit open, and we're going to go to our desktop, and once again you can use your own concrete material. You can use the one I'm linking in the description below. So it's going to be this one, concrete rough, open image. And what we need to do now, you're not seeing anything, is we need to just come over here to our scene collections, just quickly enable the cutter layer again so we can select our cutter. So we need to come here to the drop down and give it that inner material. And now we can unhide that cutter layer. And now we can see we have a different material in the inside. And you can come over here and you can obviously add in a bump node, mess around with the roughness and stuff. This is not so much a material tutorial. This is just showing you this technique here. So let's go back to the layout here. And now at any time you can grab this cutter here and you can edit it. So you can come in here, add in more geometry, pull around points, just to make your object look the way you want it, or your damage to your pillar here. And you can also come here to with this guy selected, you can come to the displace here, mess around with the strength if you want a little bit more random variation. It's completely up to you what sort of damage you're going after. So this is how you very easily and quickly add damage to a pillar or a wall or anything like that. And by the way, you can make this a lot more realistic. I'm just kind of detailing the basics of how this works today in this tutorial. So I hope you guys found this tutorial useful. If you do, make something awesome with it, and check me out on Instagram and show me what you've made. Really liking the interaction from the community. So I'll see you guys next time, and stay safe.